Revelation 3591. From the 31st of October 1945. Belief in a supremely perfect being. Belief in God's omnipotence gives the human being inner peace as soon as he also feels God's strength of love within himself through his own activity of love, for now he is certain of the Father's loving care which offers him safer protection in every danger of body and soul. To recognize God as a supremely perfect being means to be convinced of his love, wisdom and omnipotence. And this is profound faith which has a beneficial effect on the human being in every way. A being which is supremely perfect only wants good for all its living creations, and it will also determine the human being's path on earth according to its discretion, as it will result in the greatest success for him. And nothing will be impossible for this being because his will and his strength will accomplish everything. Thus a profound faith must guarantee the human being's innermost tranquility who feels himself to be a creature of the one who is supremely perfect. For perfection can only want to shape what has become perfect again or lead what has become imperfect back to perfection. And because this will is decisive, every happening will only serve this purpose and thus be good, although the human being does not recognize it as long as he is not deeply believing, thus convinced of God's love, omnipotence and wisdom. To know oneself in the care of the Supreme Being must make the human being happy and take away every worry. But this requires the belief that no other power can thwart the plans of the Supreme Being and that consequently another power is no longer to be feared as soon as the human being entrusts himself to the Supreme Being. God has the greatest power in heaven and on earth, and every opposing power is small before him. But God's love embraces everything that strives towards him, that acknowledges him and thus lives in faith in him. And this love works united with strength, thus every implementation of divine will is an act of divine love, and since God's might and strength is unlimited, every will can also be implemented. But where God's love determines his will, every worry the human being has on earth about his fate is invalid. Where love and wisdom reign, where omnipotence is unlimited and what love, wisdom and omnipotence accomplish aims for perfection, there a being is active which is unsurpassable in its perfection and to whom devotion guarantees the most blissful fate on earth and in eternity, for the being, which is a creature of the Supreme Being, need never take its own needs and worries seriously if the eternal deity takes over all care for the creature which surrenders itself and its will to him. The deep faith in God therefore gives the human being peace and tranquility, for he knows that he is guided and protected and is not afraid of the resistances he has to overcome for the sake of his maturity of soul. He constantly draws strength from God and will remain victorious in every battle of his soul with its opponent. Already the acknowledgement of the perfection of the Supreme Being is profound faith, which makes the human being confident and carefree. For what man fears can only be the effects of imperfection, that is, the work of God's adversary or his own inadequacy. And when both are confronted by perfection through one's own devotion, the former collapses and all anxiety leaves the human being, for the most perfect being can do everything and wants everything that is good. And only evil is to be feared if man does not acknowledge God. That is why deep faith is absolutely necessary if man wants to attain inner peace and live out his earthly life in carefree hope for a blessed end. But whoever lacks this faith, his life will be an incessant battle with the powers of darkness, and this means constant restlessness, fear of fate and inner doubts as long as the human being is weakened in will and has not yet decided for or against God. The God apostate, however, is supported by the forces of the underworld, and his earthly life can certainly feign peace and carefreeness, but his soul never participates in it, and at the end of his earthly life comes the great hardship of the soul, which is now at the mercy of the powers of darkness, because it acknowledged them on earth and not the Supreme Being, who in his perfection also sought to win this soul but constantly found rejection, because the human being lacked all faith, without which there is no spiritual ascent, no beatitude and no inner peace. Amen.